Greetings, my friends. I want to thank you all for subscribing. I want to thank all of my channel members for supporting me in this endeavor to save pop culture. And if you are not subscribed, please consider supporting this channel. We need you. Thank you. Greetings, my friends. I am Dictor Van Doomcock, the future ruler of Earth, and I am here today with a very amusing rumor about one more way that wokeness has bitten Hollywood squarely in the butt. You know, they say when you dance with the devil, you get burned, and there's a definite smell of brimstone in the air on this one, folks. According to the source of this rumor, a major Hollywood production has been, if not completely derailed, then significantly slowed by an eruption of wokeness on the set that disrupted the entire production and caused the producers a hell of a lot of grief, which will be good news for a lot of you out there who love seeing Hollywood get a taste of their own woke medicine. And the production in question here? None other than Season 3 of Umbrella Academy. This was a show that started off in a very promising way. Season 1 of Umbrella Academy was excellent, a beautifully done adaptation of the Dark Horse comic book series that lived up, for the most part, to its source material. But then, in Season 2, the woke virus infected the series, and we got a time-traveling social justice storyline, gay, lesbian storylines. What wasn't woke in Season 2 was pretty good stuff, all told. But I'd say a good 40 to 50% of Umbrella Academy Season 2 was tainted, if not ruined, by SJW propaganda of the most obvious sort. And it left me a lot less excited about Umbrella Academy moving forward than I was in Season 1. So, how is Season 3, you ask? I have no idea. I didn't get any plot tips about Season 3 from this source, although I did get a very amusing story about an incident that happened on the set that pushed the production back and gave the woke producers some well-deserved headaches. At this point, I'd like to state that what I'm about to relate to you is information provided by a walk-in source that I cannot verify. I've never worked with this person before, which means I cannot attest to the veracity of any of this, and so I am presenting it to you entirely as unverified rumor, and I ask you to take it with a whole lot of shaken salt going on. You good with that, Harvey Cthulhu?
Message received and understood, O Dread One. The following story has high sodium content, but when you tell us this source was a walk-in, what exactly do you mean by that?
Well, when I say this source was a walk-in, that means it was a source I'd never communicated with before. There was no preamble or warning. This person just emailed me this story, and so naturally it pays to be skeptical of this, but I've looked into it and the results are interesting, to say the least. So on July 12th, I received this message in an email. Quote, "Just heard from a friend of mine who works in a film production in Toronto, Canada, that 11 employees, including one producer, walked off the show 2 weeks ago because of woke crap. Everyone has to use pronouns," unquote. That was the extent of the initial communication. I followed up and asked some questions and got the following reply the next day. "Don't know the name of the show, but it was because of some woman who had the C word tattooed on the back of her neck. She complained to the bosses in Hollywood about it," unquote.
The C word? What C word exactly? Cthulhu? Catastrophe? Cantaloupe? How are we to know? Lots of words that would fit on necks start with C, after all.
Well, Harvey, this source used the actual C word in the communication, but I went ahead and softened that up here. Let's just say it's a pejorative slang for a portion of the female anatomy that if you happen to have one, you can use that slang in a kind of taking the word back empowerment kind of way. But if you don't have one of those and you use it, it can make woke people go ree, ree, ree all the way home. But that's not important right now. So when I got this, I followed up again with this source and didn't hear anything back until August 12th. At this point, the source said, quote, "Ah, my Lord Doomcock, sorry it's been so long to get back to you. The name of the production was Umbrella Academy," unquote. At that point, I sat up and I took notice.
Well, damn right, dude. Now that there is a story. Because, like you said, Season 2 pissed a lot of fans off who had to endure some very woke storylines, so it's nice to know the very wokeness they're pandering to is turned on them like that hillbilly turned on Ned Beatty in Deliverance. Boy, you sure do have a purty mouth, Hollywood. Yee-haw!
If this rumor is true, then yes, Harvey, Hollywood is squealing like a pig on this one. At this point, I did a little digging to see if I could find anything to prove or disprove this rumor, and indeed what I found was rather intriguing. This item appeared on devdiscourse.com, an article titled, "The Umbrella Academy to Wrap Soon, What Latest We Know." And here's what it said, quote, "The filming for the superhero series The Umbrella Academy Season 3 is underway. After the production was halted for the COVID-19 pandemic, it commenced again on February 7th, 2021, but they are going slow. It looks like the fans will have to wait long for this release. While filming for the Umbrella Academy Season 3, star Tom Hopper, who plays Luther Hargreaves, aka Number One, told Collider in April that they're just getting started. Quote, well, the COVID protocols mean that we have shorter days, which means that the actual length of the shoot is going to be a lot longer. But yeah, we're really near the beginning. We're not that far into it at the moment, so we've got a long way to go, but it's good." Unquote.
Well, I think that, as Artie Johnson would say on Laugh-In, very interesting. And basically, there was a delay in the filming, a delay attributed to COVID-19, which is Hollywood's favorite excuse for everything these days. But the source is saying that delay could have been due to some other reason.
That's about the size of it, Harvey. Shortly after revealing the name of the production, this source sent yet another email clarifying the alleged situation. Quote, "I'll try to explain. She was complaining about people not using pronouns. She complained to the big bosses in Hollyweird about it. They in turn bitched to the bosses in Toronto. That's when they called a meeting of everybody in the production to use pronouns properly. That's when they walked out." Unquote. The source then confided something about their friend on the production, asking me not to use it in this video, so I won't, and then concluded, quote, "The production is still shut down because nobody will work there. They're having to call in people from outside of Toronto to work who don't know the situation." Unquote. So it's very interesting because what we've got here is an article back in February saying, well, things are going to move slowly because of COVID-19. So far, so good. But this particular article on devdiscourse.com was published a week ago. And they're using this to go ahead, this COVID excuse, to maybe cover up, according to this source, a further slowdown based on pronouns.
Oh, geez. So Miss C-Word Tattoo was offended when someone in the production didn't use her pronouns properly, which I think is a crime in Canada right now. Isn't that correct?
Well, yes and no, Harvey. A bill was passed in Canada known as Bill C-16 that many Canadians fear would send them to prison for not using whatever pronouns people want to slap on their Twitter accounts. The website cbc.ca examined this issue in response to Canadian concerns, and this was their analysis of the situation, raising the question, quote, "Does the bill legislate the use of certain language? And could someone go to jail for using the wrong pronoun?" In the criminal code, which does not reference pronouns, Brenda Kosman, law professor at the University of Toronto and director of the Mark S. Bonham Center for Sexual Diversity Studies, says misusing pronouns alone would not constitute a criminal act. The misuse of gender pronouns, without more, cannot rise to the level of a crime, she says. It cannot rise to the level of advocating genocide, inciting hatred, hate speech, or hate crimes. It simply cannot meet the threshold, unquote. The Canadian Human Rights Act does not mention pronouns either. The act protects certain groups from discrimination. Quote, would it cover the accidental misuse of a pronoun? I would say it's very unlikely, unquote, Kosman says. Quote, would it cover a situation where an individual repeatedly, consistently refuses to use a person's chosen pronoun? It might, unquote. If someone refused to use a preferred pronoun and it was determined to constitute discrimination or harassment, could that potentially result in jail time? It is possible, Jared Brown, commercial litigator at Brown Litigation, says, through a process that would start with a complaint and progress to a proceeding before a human rights tribunal. If the tribunal rules that harassment or discrimination took place, there would typically be an order for monetary or non-monetary remedies. A non-monetary remedy may include sensitivity training, issuing an apology, or even a publication ban, he says. If the person refused to comply with the tribunal's order, this would result in a contempt proceeding being sent to the divisional or federal court, Brown says. The court could then potentially send a person to jail, quote, until they purge the contempt, unquote, he says. It could happen, Brown says. Is it likely to happen? I don't think so, but my opinion on whether or not that's likely has a lot to do with the particular case that you're looking at. The path to prison is not straightforward. It's not easy, but it's there. It's been used before in breach of tribunal orders, unquote.
Alas, poor Canada. They used to be a free country, once upon a time.
Yeah, Canada used to be a pretty cool place, but wokeness tends to ruin everything it touches, like locust swarms, blight, and Jar Jar Abrams. So yes, it seems that Miss C-Word Tattoo complained to the production bosses in Hollywood. They in turn complained to the producers in Toronto. A big meeting was called where everyone got chewed out and got ordered to mind those pronouns. And then 11 people flat out quit the production, along with one of the producers, according to this source. You see, Hollywood? You should learn from some of the very modern myths that you keep defiling and vandalizing. If you had read Frankenstein, you'd understand all too well the dangers of creating monsters. Sometimes those monsters rise up against you, and by then, it's just too late. Get woke, go broke, Hollywood. When will you ever learn? So take it with a grain of salt, my friends, but if this is true, Hollywood is getting a dose of its own woke medicine. From the center of the earth, this is Dictor Van Doomcock bidding you all, my friends, stay angry. Ha 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 ha.